there, Tenno. I'm Shadow Scythe, and after a very long break, it is finally time for another installment of In the Know. Devstream 96 just ended with a shit ton of talk of Plains of Eidolon. Pretty much what happened was we got to see the earliest stages of it back in, like, early to late March up through April, May, and I think even June. I do have a couple of things for that I'm going to just casually put up because there really isn't much to talk about with it. Like, we got some, what's the word I'm looking for? One of the things, like, pretty much the whole extent of it was they were talking about the fact that they had to upgrade or change the technology available for them for the development of the Plains of Eidolon. Because what they were using before was for building tile sets out of, like, this room by room shit that we're used to. That just could not cut it for the Plains of Eidolon because it's a massive open space, 9 kilometers square.
Find our target and bring them to the extraction point. Happy hunting.
Get through here.
Target located. Bring them in.
Really? That was a little too easy, so I'm probably gonna roam around and kill some shit while I talk about this.
Excellent work. We'll interrogate
But
the captain of that.
now, as far as the expected release for Plains of Eidolon, I know the last time I talked about it, I said how they were aiming for the end of summer, basically, because that was what I was getting from everything else. Well, that has changed to early fall, and if you guys follow Rob from A Gay Guy Plays or Quiet Shy on Twitter, and we're paying attention to the tweets that they've been putting out throughout the Devstream, as far as when they expect it to come out, they're expecting September, which, if all goes well, I can see it coming out in September. If not, well, then something done went wrong. So don't get your hopes up for September just yet, because we don't actually know if that's going to be the finalized time. They didn't show too much more. They did, however, talk about one thing that I was a little interested in was, and that a lot of you are probably wanting to know, is about mastery with the weapons you can make at Hawk's Anvil. The way that it looks like it's going to work out is, don't think that you're just going to be able to spam the ever-living fuck out of the mastery system by just crafting a shit ton of weapons. That it's not going to work like that. What's going to happen is you will get mastery based.
Lock and load.
What's going to happen is you're going to get mastery based on the weapon tip. However, the ones that you make at Hawk's Anvil, you don't actually get any mastery for those right off the bat. That's for you to play around with, find what type you actually like, and then what you can do is later rebuild it, committing to that specific weapon tip and, like, overall customization,
Doors are locked. Time to break in.
and rebuild a better version for it that you will then get mastery for. However, you are not locked to that weapon specifically, because what will happen is then, if you have the resources, you can make the other ones as well. And they answered a question as to how melee ribbons would work with all these crafted weapons. It's something that they didn't really think about, but Rebecca mentioned that if they're doing since they're doing the thing with the mastery based on the tip type, then it would probably just be in the best interest to do the same thing for melee ribbons, if and when they get incorporated into that. However, we're still at least a couple months away, so there's still a lot to be had as far as that's concerned. Now, for those of you who are Kavat lovers like me, and we finally got the Hyeka skin, as you can see with my Kavat. However, one thing that's nice that was just confirmed on the Devstream is that with the little pet vendor thing that they're going on, where you can buy just your Kubro and Kavat customization shit, they're bringing us a Feral Kavat skin, finally. Which means if they're bringing us a Feral Kavat skin, I can see them bringing us a Feral Kubro skin as well. Just because it makes more sense to do it for both instead of one and not the other. And then Steve was kind of antagonizing Scott and Jeff about us possibly getting our own bird-like companion that would probably fly around and attack, kind of like what your Kavat does, except whenever it's just moving, or like whenever you're stationary, instead of it just hovering, it would probably perch on your shoulder. I think it'd be pretty cool. However, as to whether that comes in to play, I don't quite know yet. Like I said, it was kind of just something he was teasing at. But who knows? Just because there's been a lot of shit that they've said they'd never put into the game, and then a couple months down the line, oh hey look, we have it in the game. Like one thing with fucking dancing, they said that would never be a thing, and then we have Octavia, who all she does is fucking dance. Alright. Then they showed like the whole transition thing with Cetus and how they're trying to make this optimized for like everyone, whether you're running on a toaster or not. However, for that, it would be better off for you guys to just go onto their Twitch page and watch the stream itself, because they had a lot of video files this time, so my collection of assets to show you guys is rather slim. Come on, cat, open the lockers, or don't. That's fine too. But that, and they kind of explain a bit more with the background for Cetus, so it's getting to be a lot more interesting as we get closer and closer. They also said that between the Plains of Eidolon update and the Sacrifice update, expect Plains of Eidolon first, which I completely support. That was the bigger of the two reveals. What do I want? Yeah, I'll do this. What else? There was just so much that they actually talked about that was really cool.
Okay, Tano, a lot of people are depending
And
on you to get
more or
this
less,
done.
there's a lot of it that I just can't recall right off the top of my head, because I was focusing on making sure I had those assets captured for you guys. But they did confirm that we are getting a new polearm stance, because after talking to a few people at TennoCon, they got to work on one right away. So there's that. There was no word as to those new mods that were shown in the demos they had set up for players to mess around with at TennoCon. And the reason as to why I'm just talking about those now is because I didn't even know that those were actually a thing while I was there, because I didn't mess with any of the stations. Like, I didn't go to the Xbox One station, I didn't go to the PS4 station, even though I have played the game on PS4. Can't play the game on controller to save my life. So there's that. And then I didn't even mess with the PC stations, just because there was a lot more that I wanted to roam around and do. Like, I didn't even get the chance to do the escape room, because by the time I would have had the chance to do it, it was already filled up. Anyway, enough about that. Back to the Devstream. Now, as far as Arcwing being a gear-based deployable, that might not be permanent. That's just how they're doing it right now, so that there is some sort of penalty. Because you are completely vulnerable while you are messing around with that. And then this way you can't just immediately go into Arcwing and just spam the shit out of your abilities. They're wanting to do away with as many exploits to that as they can, which I completely understand. You are my ally, so that's why I'm not hurting you. Then one thing that's really kind of cool and unique as to what they talked about. Now hold on, I just lost my train of thought. Shit. That tends to happen when I'm trying to draw all this up from memory, because I didn't do a fucking spreadsheet list like I normally do. Ugh. What was it that I was wanting to mention? Can't for the life of me remember.
You're still in the clear. No detection from enemy sensors. You are approaching the holding area. Careful. If the wardens detect you, they will surely initiate the execution sequence. The bypass is done. Go. Hurry up.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Luckily, this is actually really easy to get into. Well, let me just give you guys some gameplay while I try to remember my train of thought. Oh, they showed off the
Subject found. You need to bring the captive to
the
safety.
Grenier
Protect
Ghoul
them
that
at
was
all costs.
featured in their comic. And that's something that once you see it, you can't unsee. Like, oh my god. Oh, now I remember. It has to do with the, with Cetus and the actual open plains. As far as the, as far as Cetus itself is concerned, it's gonna be utilizing the same 50-player relay style that we have for the dojo and the relays. However, as far as the open plains, whenever the update launches, those open plains are only going to be you and your squad. At least for the time being. Once they get everything actually hooked up, what may end up happening if you go in on, say, while you're set to public, and then walk into the plains, you could potentially be joining other players who are on public if they don't have a full squad, or vice versa, other players could be joining you.
Override complete.
Now, they are going to try to make this open to everyone right from the get-go, but as far as like the endgame fighting the Eidolons themselves, only the more experienced players are really going to be able to do it, because they'll have the survivability and the damage to effectively make a difference against them. Now, if you happen to have a new player in squad with you, you can pretty much carry them through it. There's not saying that you can't do that. However, they themselves would not be able to just party up and take one of these things down, because it would utterly annihilate them. So that was a really cool and unique aspect that I thought that they were bringing in. And then they even mentioned how they now have a smaller team looking into additional routes to take this, so that they can build upon it and do it on other planets as well, and not just have it be a one-off on Earth. Anyway, that's really all that I have for you this time, because the Plains of Eidolon was literally the only subject talked about, with a few minor details as well. And before I go, while I'm thinking about it, those of you wondering about the fan weapon that we've seen concept art for and saw like GIFs for on one of the past dev streams, it's still a work in progress because it is a new grip type altogether. So there will be more on that as it becomes available. But with all that said and out of the way, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you again for all of the continued support that you guys do. It means the world to me that this small community that I've got going has just slowly and steadily been growing over the... God, I've been doing this for almost a year now. I think it's gonna be November or December, I'll make it a year. Wow. Huh. And honestly, just seeing... anytime that I look at my channel and see a new subscriber, that alone makes my day. That and the positive comments that you guys will leave. Just that knowledge that my videos make an impact with even one person, that's enough for me to keep doing this. So once again, thank you. As always, you guys can follow me on Twitter or player.me to stay up to date with all things regarding YouTube, Twitch, anything IRL that might be causing delays, stuff like that. My throat is really sore today. I'm sorry, guys. That's why my voice is cracking so much. And I promise you, it's not because I'm like some 13-year-old with a very bad mouth. I'm 21. But, then if you guys would like to support the channel in any way, there is a game list link in the description box below. It's not required, so don't feel pressured into it. However, it is greatly appreciated if you guys so choose to do so. And I worded that ridiculously weird now that I just listened to myself. Well, thanks again, and until next time, Tenno, stick to the shadows.